correct me if I'm wrong, part of the reason you put this book together was you wanted to share what you've experienced with her, and you thought that this was the best way to really present it to her.
Yeah, thanks for picking that up, and I appreciate you asking this. It wasn't until the book was completed, until I had this like clarity that I wanted her to one day read this book of mine, not as like a perfect story, but as a human one, right? To really understand that life isn't about figuring it all out, right? It's about how we move through uncertainty, how we protect our peace, and how we
Mhm.
build ourselves when things fall apart. And I thought, one day she's going to read this book with mature clarity and really understand some of the things that her dad went through and how he's overcome some of like life's biggest challenges.
And it's interesting too because, I mean, if she does she journal right now?
And so, she doesn't journal. She does some writing, and she loves arts and crafts. So she's a very creative person. And most people wouldn't know this unless you picked up the book and read the entire book. But one day I was going through her old schoolwork. And, so I pulled out the old duotangs and I started just to reflect back on like how far she's come. Um, and then I stumbled across a couple pieces of poetry that she had doodled on her duotang. And so I took a snapshot of her poems, and I snuck them into my book. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah. So I remember when my book was completed, the publisher had sent me an author's copy, and I had them address it to my daughter Macy, and not to me. So when this envelope arrived, I grabbed it and I picked her up from school. And I told her, honey, you've got some mail here. I'm not quite sure what it is, but let's go sit down, take a look. And so she opens the envelope, this big yellow envelope, and she pulls out the book and she immediately recognizes that, hey, it's my book. It's the book you've been working on. And so we sat there and we went through some of the pages. And as we were skimming, I looked for her poetry. And when I found one of them, I had asked her to read that one out loud to me. And she immediately recognized it. And she said, wait a second, this is my book. So there was a moment of that we shared where it was just really beautiful. Everything sort of came full circle. But I don't think she really comprehended like the significance of this up until I told her that she was probably the only fifth grader in her entire school that was a published poet. So yeah.
There we go. First line in your LinkedIn profile for your daughter Macy,
Yeah.
published poet.
Mhm.
Are you looking forward to the moment when, and maybe she's already done this, where she reads it, maybe understands it more on an adult level, and she looks at some of the things that she was present for that you endured and gets a chance to share it with you and say, Dad, I see why you went through it that way. But by the way, while you're going through it, here's how I viewed it from the lens of a young girl.
Yeah, I one day welcome that conversation, and in fact, I look forward to it. You know, I do talk about some pretty sensitive, mature topics in my book, but I recall when I was putting together the manuscript, I would read it out loud at nighttime, and eventually she would, ask me what I was reading. And then when it came to bedtime, she would ask, "Hey, can you read a piece of your book to me?" And so I would read some of my book to her, and I wasn't sure if I was offended or not because she would fall asleep pretty quickly.
Oh,
I I
God.
w I don't know if it was the soothing calm of my voice or it was just really boring to her. But but
Boris, you do have a rich baritone voice.
thank you. But this happened consistently for months where she would request me to read my book right before bedtime. So, she understands a piece of it, but, there's another part to the book where I don't think she's going to fully really understand the context until she's a bit older.